Live from San Francisco, it's Rex Broadcasting Wrestling Observer with Dave Meltzer and Brian Alvarez.
Are you ready? Are you ready?
Let's get it on!
How's it going, everybody? This is Dave Meltzer. We're going to be here for the next 2 hours talking pro wrestling. We got Brian Alvarez, of course, here. And in our second hour, we're going to have superstar Billy Graham so we can talk about wrestling in the 70s. We can also talk about current wrestling. And he's actually going to be back on WWF television, or WWE television, in just a couple of weeks. And we'll talk to him about that. Of course, we had him on just before the Don Frye fight, as a matter of fact. And actually, we got a lot to talk about his career. Of course, we got a lot to talk about currently. First hour, we want to take your phone calls on current wrestling. And there's no shortage of news on that. Brian, how are you tonight?
I'm doing good.
That's good. We're going to talk, actually, right after the break. In fact, we have someone on from Columbus, Ohio. So we'll get to the tapings, the SmackDown tapings that just ended a couple hours ago in Columbus. So we'll leave that out for right now. But interesting week in WWE. We'll start with WWE, I guess. Raw was in Montreal, and there was some psychology there, and I don't know exactly what it is. I'm sure there was an attempt at something. I actually have asked people, and nobody's wanting to tell me because I think they're ashamed of it when it was all over. What a mess.
Yeah, I watched that show, and my first thought when it was over was if it was the worst Raw that I had ever seen.
Really? I mean, I wouldn't say that because I've seen some bad Raws.
I have seen some horrible Raws, but that one was really, really bad. And it was bad because I remember when Steve Austin came out at the beginning of the show, I thought, God, these fans are always so rabid. And they killed those fans so dead.
Yeah.
They did such a good job of making those fans not happy that it was really amazing, actually.
You know what else? If those fans actually had heard the commentary, they'd have been even more unhappy.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Oh, boy.
And just some of the lines, comments like, you people are the only ones that haven't forgotten this Montreal incident.
Yeah, they write the whole show around it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They'll never forget it.
Yeah. They don't want anyone to forget it because, I don't know. What can I say?
It does numbers every time.
It did numbers, though. That's true. So, of course, Vengeance, we've got 2 McMahon matches, not just one. Vince against Zach moved up from SummerSlam because Hulk Hogan left. And Stephanie against Sable for our viewing pleasure. So, quite the pay-per-view. I'll tell you what, this is
a horrible.
Well, it's going to be Chris Benoit Guerrero match.
Yeah.
So
that's the only saving grace.
Yeah. Anyway, we're going to come back. We're going to talk about SmackDown tapings today. This is for Thursday, actually, this coming Thursday, because the SmackDown crew had to go to Bangkok, Thailand, and Japan for this week, so they couldn't be around Tuesday. So, anyway, we'll be talking about this Thursday SmackDown tapings right after this. You're listening to Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline Radio Network. Okay, welcome back to Wrestling Observer Live. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer Newsletter, with Brian Alvarez of Figure 4 Weekly, and we're going to go to Columbus, Ohio, and Ryan. Ryan, what's going on?
Hey, Dave. Hey, Brian. How you doing?
Doing good.
Actually, I'm from Cleveland, but I drove down to Columbus because I wanted to see SmackDown because I was disappointed with the really bad house show I got in Cleveland on Monday night.
Okay.
So anyway, I'll go ahead and give you the dark matches first, run them down, because I was surprised at some of the people I saw.
Okay.
John Heinrich and Mark Henry tag team up together.
That's a team.
Yeah, and they took on Travis Tomko and somebody else from OVW. The name slips to my mind at the moment.
Was it 7?
I think it was 7.
Like a 6'5" Undertaker looking guy.
He was sort of, but I think 7 actually fought Carly Colon later on in another dark match.
Okay.
So I'm not sure who the other guy was, and I know Johnny Jeter was on the show too, so it wasn't him. So I'm not sure.
Well, Johnny Jeter's a lot smaller. So what was the size of the guy, or what did he look like? Because I know who there aren't so many OVW guys that we can't figure it out.
Yeah, the one guy had a lot of tattoos, so I'm thinking he looked like Bane, maybe.
Yeah, that's Travis Bane, whose real name is Travis Tomko, yeah.
Yeah, and the other guy was also bald and sort of ripped.
Bald and ripped. Brian, who's bald and ripped in OVW besides everyone?
Bald and ripped. How tall was he? Like 6 feet? 6'5"?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was pretty tall.
Tall, bald, and ripped. It might be Horseshoe.
Yeah, it was Horseshoe. That was it.
Oh, okay. There you go. All right. Go ahead. Good.
Yeah. Heinrich did this really cool look, and he did like the spin-a-rooney off the Tough Enough into a leg drop.
Uh-huh.
Henry lay over, which shocked the heck out of me because he hasn't been on TV in how many months? So.
Well, it seems like years.
Face or a heel?
Yeah, he was a face. Heinrich and Mark Henry were the faces.
Oh, my God.
What I love about Ohio Valley and WWE is they'll always bring someone up and have them work what they weren't the entire time they were in Ohio Valley.
Right. So they're confused, I know.
Yeah, if they were a baby face their entire career, they'll bring them up as a heel.
Yeah, like Shelton Benjamin.
Yep.
And Charlie Haas. Okay.
All right, next was the dark match between Carly Colon, which they called him Carlo Colon, and Seven.
Uh-huh.
And Carlo Colon won. It was that boring chant started going, and the crowd wasn't into it. But Carlo did sort of like the Jeff Hardy twisting midair. The name of the move slips me right now, but he did one of those and woke the crowd up, and he won.
Yeah.
His match. It was pretty heatless, and it looked competitive, but they both need some work. But Colon looked pretty impressive for just a couple dark matches.
Yeah.
Okay, Velocity. We had Matt Capitelli and Johnny Jeter against the Basham brothers.
Uh-huh.
And that was won by the Basham brothers.
How did that go? I mean, was it good?
It was a pretty good match. It was pretty competitive. Capitelli did a lot of selling because I don't think he knows too much on offense yet. So
yeah.
The Bashams had a lot of offense, and it was pretty heatless because nobody really knows the Bashams deal because they never did a promo explaining why they're in S&M or whatever they're into. So.
Well, how about did they ever do a promo saying they're from Columbus, Ohio?
They did. They announced them from Columbus, and the crowd popped. So of course they didn't go with that, and they stayed heel.
Oh my God!
You know,
is that hard to lie in wrestling?
You know what's so funny is like, yeah, you know, Brian, you've been watching the OVW, and I always watch it, and you know, all those big guys are in OVW, and all those ripped guys and bald guys are in OVW. And watching the show, there's not a question in my mind that the best prospect in OVW is Johnny Jeter.
Yeah.
I mean, he just got it. And, I mean, he doesn't have the interview, obviously. Boy, he doesn't. But just about the work. He's got that thing about his work, you know, the selling and the comebacks and everything. He's really a good worker, but he's small. And since he's small, you know, if he was like a big guy, he would be in a dark match because they wouldn't want people to see him get beat. But since he's a small guy, even though he's like the best prospect in the whole territory, although they don't know that, they put him on velocity so everyone knows he's a job guy.
Yep.
Anyway, that's my... Go ahead.
Let's see. Another match was the 100th meeting between A-Train and Orlando Jordan.
Yeah, that's the feud of the year.
Was this the best of 800 series they were talking about? Oh, that was Funaki. Never mind. That was a big thing on commentary.
Yeah.
Well, A-Train hit the train wreck. That was it.
Train wreck, yeah.
Yay.
Okay.
That's what the match looked like. So.
Yeah.
That's what's fitting. And then the end Velocity, they had Dawn Marie and Nydia, and Nydia, one of the last matches on Velocity, and Nydia, they had the storyline where Dawn Marie was playing off that Tori Wilson was being looked at by Jamie Noble, and he wasn't paying attention to her anymore, and Nydia got the win in that. It was a horrible match. Crowd pops because of, you know, the shots of the bug, but that was about it. It was a horrible match.
Yeah.
And then FBI faced Funaki and Spanky, and the most shocking thing I've seen, which tells me that FBI's push is over, is they did the job to Funaki and Spanky. Which,
wow. Who got pinned?
Chuck Palumbo got pinned?
Wow, you're right though. You're right. That's telling.
They're doomed.
Yeah. Well, they deserved.
Lost to Nunzio last night too.
Yeah, they deserved to be doomed. They didn't do anything when they were given the chance.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So then we start with the video package of the Lesnar match last week. SmackDown starts. McMahon opens, and he's cutting a promo about why Angle didn't show up. And he said that when he had called him back, he told him that if he had showed up, he would lose his title shot at Vengeance, and that he would be fired. Or he used more Mr. McMahon type things, but basically he was saying he was fired. Then Lesnar showed up and said that he wanted a match with McMahon right now in Columbus. And McMahon said, "Guess what, Brock? I'll give it to you." And then he said, "But not tonight." And he said that if Brock he set up a match, the same exact match last week, except slide Angle in there, and it's Angle against Big Show and the best tag team in the world in a no DQ or no holds barred, falls count anywhere match. And if Lesnar interfered, he would strip him of the belt and fire him.
Who does Vince think he is?
Vince.
I'll wrestle you, Brock Lesnar. 58.
I wish
Non-wrestler.
I wish I owned the company. Then I could go over on like Ken Shamrock in a street fight and take down Kurt Angle and beat Brock Lesnar in an amateur rules match.
Get all the girls.
Get all the girls. We're getting to that one, aren't we?
Oh yes, it's coming.
Yeah.
So then Brock just said, basically, Vince, I understand why you don't want me out here, and I guess I'll agree to that, basically making Brock look weak. And then Brock...
Oh, no, I don't believe it.
And then Brock just said, Vince, instead of F5ing you tonight, all I have to say is F you, and he walked out, and that was the end of that.
Yeah, that's always good to make your lead babyface, though, the one guy that the fans really believe in, look like he's backing down to Vince McMahon. Anyway, go ahead.
I hated it. So the next match is the Benoit against Matt Hardy match in the U.S. title tournament. It was a really great match back and forth. It looked like, I don't know, you'll probably find out something later, Dave, is that looked like Matt Hardy either broke his nose or busted his lip because he was bleeding pretty badly from the nose or the mouth. And actually, awesome finish. Matt Hardy hit about 4 or 5 side effects in the match, and he went to hit one off the second rope, and Benoit reversed it into the crossface, and he tapped. So next segment was really weird to the live crowd. I'm sure it'll play. As Stephanie came into Vince's office while Vince was talking to Sable, Vince made some offhand comment where he swore. He said the S word. That'll be edited off the show. When Stephanie looked at her hand, she had her hand on a lamp, and he said, "Is it hot?" And she said, "Yeah." And he said, "No, whatever." I thought it was really weird. It was pointless. And the segment was just trying to put over that Vince had Sable away, which turned out later to be in a skybox away from Stephanie to keep her safe. For setting up the match for Vengeance.
Yeah.
Put us fans to keep us safe from that feud.
Next, I believe John Cena cut a promo from a graveyard where he said that basically Undertaker was used up and dead, and that he was never a dead man anyway. He just liked sleeping in coffins with dead men. And that was the gist of that. And then Cena said this is what he's going to do to Undertaker at Vengeance, basically, and then he peed on a tombstone. Oh. And that was the end of that segment.
Yeah.
Let's see.
I hope he wins, and I don't know that that's going to happen.
And if he does, it won't mean a thing, so it doesn't really matter.
Well, the way it'll happen, you're right, because it's not like, I know if he's going to win, it's going to take 12 guys anyway. I think maybe it'll be the return of Nathan Jones.
Yeah. Hey, there's a good match for SummerSlam.
Okay.
Okay, it may be going a little out of order here, but this is what I remember. Next, I think Vince then came back out, and he did a promo where he alluded to everybody to look at Sable up in the skybox, and that's where she was. And she's the most gorgeous woman, and that the way she beats people, that she gets them down on the ground and she rips their clothes off and beats them, basically alluding to that maybe somebody will be naked at Vengeance, which is absurd because they do the bait and switch always, but the crowd was popping like crazy because it's Vince.
Yeah.
Promo got interrupted by John Cena, of all people. He came down, and he did a really funny promo, I'm not going to lie, although they were just basically, they keep bringing up that Zach Gowen is handicapped instead of letting him try to get over, even though, I don't know, it's kind of hard for him to do that. But John Cena basically compared Gowen to Christopher Reeve, and he also said one of his lines in there that Gowen was out on a mission, but you can't beat Mr. McMahon because look at Ted Turner, now he has no competition. I believe that was the line.
Oh, and
Vince had a big smile on his face. It was basically a kiss Mr. McMahon's butt moment. Yeah. And then Cena said, Vince, we're alike because we're both going to beat some butt at, well, not their words, but we're going to beat people at Vengeance. And then Undertaker came down and he punched John Cena and he fell out of the ring. And then Cena picked up the stairs and tried to block Undertaker's bike at some point before he did that. And then basically Cena left. Undertaker posed to the crowd, and that was it. There was Jimmy Noble had a match on there against Ultimo Dragon. Noble cut a promo before about how he said he was apologizing to Tori Wilson for offering $10,000 because she's so hot that she deserves $25,000 for that. And he said kind of
ironic this week, Dave.
What?
Kind of ironic this week.
25,000. Why, am I missing something?
I'll tell you later.
Oh, okay. Oh, I got it. Okay, I'm sorry. It took me a while on that one. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. And then Noble had a match with Ultimo Dragon. That was a pretty good match. It was won by Ultimo Dragon, where he did a a roll into almost like where he did it's hard to explain, but it's one of those lucha moves where he does a roll through and he kind of lays back on his back, kind of
the wacky lucha cradle.
It's exactly.
La Magistrada or something else?
It might have been that. I can't remember at this point, but I know it was just almost a basic roll-up into a bridge, pin, hooking the legs after Gunn and Torrie come down and distract Noble, and that was the pin.
Okay.
Later on, we had Eddie Guerrero against Billy Gunn, and Guerrero, thank God, won. Jamie Noble came down, actually, with a chair, and the referee went to look at Noble, and Guerrero grabbed the chair, hit Gunn in the head, and then did the gimmick where he feigned like he was hit with the chair, and then he was laying on the mat, and he kind of gave a wink to the crowd, and he got up, and then he pinned Gunn.
Now, did they cheer Eddie or no?
Eddie was he was the second most over on the show to me, right behind Brock. They were chanting Eddie during the whole entire match.
This turn has worked wonders for him.
It actually has in a very strange way.
No, I know, but I meant that both serious and facetiously. If that's possible. Well, hold on. We really need to head to a break right now. We're going to come back with the rest of this card right after this. You'll listen to Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline Radio Network. Okay, welcome back to Wrestling Observer Live. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer Newsletter, with Brian Alvarez of Figure 4 Weekly, and Ryan is on line 2 on his way back from Columbus, Ohio, and the big SmackDown tapings. So, Ryan, we picked up at Eddie Guerrero beating Billy Gunn. So Eddie Guerrero and Chris Benoit will be wrestling for the U.S. title on the next pay-per-view. And so there is a reason that there...
One reason.
There's at least one reason to buy that pay-per-view. So...
I wholeheartedly agree.
Yeah.
I may be a little out of order on the show, but these are definitely all the results. Early in the show, the APA was backstage, and they were handing out, like, leaflets to Spanky, and then they did one with a sort of funny interchange with Canyon about that they're having an APA invitational barroom brawl at Vengeance, which has been added. And I guess they're just going to have guys in a bar and start brawling. That's what I'm assuming it's going to be, where APA basically will go over, is what I'm assuming, because it looked like they were just sticking nothing but jobbers in there. Because later there was a match between Sean O'Haire and Rhino, and O'Haire attacked Rhino outside and was choking him with TV cables. APA came down, and all they did were hand out more leaflets. And then they went to attack Sean O'Haire, and Farouk helped Bradshaw, and he was helping up Rhino, and then O'Haire was back on Bradshaw, so he went to help Bradshaw, and then O'Haire was in the way, and he moved, and Rhino gored Farouk into the ground, and then Bradshaw beat on him. So basically the segment was trying to put over APA. But Farouk did sell the gore during the commercial break, I'm assuming, when he was walking up the aisle. But they set up that match. Later on in the show...
again?
I'm sorry?
Tim White's bar again?
Let me see. It's in Denver, so I seriously doubt it.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, they did allude to that it would be in a bar in Denver. I don't think they said which one it would be.
Yeah.
Then we had a tag match, which was really, really weird. It was a tag match with Kidman and Ray, who are going into Vengeance as the number one contenders, and they faced a masked tag team. They had hoods on, and I'm assuming it was the Basham brothers with hoods on and wigs, because they played videotape footage of the match last week where they beat the Bashams in the Fatal 4-Way for the shot. I'm assuming that's who it is, and maybe they'll allude to it on TV commentary playing up who it is, but they said nothing. These guys were in masks. They rode around like Los Conquistadores, but they just had on black trunks and masks, and I'm assuming wigs because I'm thinking it is the Bashams, but I don't know.
Did they wear bodysuits, or did they have good bodies?
They had good bodies. They were built.
Probably the Bashams.
Probably the Bashams, yeah.
And since I saw the Bashams earlier, I put two and two together and saw the footage, and I think that's them. Well, they jobbed anyway, so I don't know what the point of the segment was.
Aren't they supposed to unmask at the end of the segments?
I would assume so, but they didn't.
Okay.
And then Kidman put Ray up on his shoulders, trying to play real babyface. I'm assuming it could set up a turn for a match at SummerSlam for the Cruiserweight title. I don't want to say anything, but that's what it looks like they're setting up.
That's the direction, yeah.
Yeah. We also had a match, they went for an interview with Josh Matthews right after that, up with Sable in the Skybox. And Sable had been ordering around people earlier and saying, get me my wine and all this and that. And she's like, I need a new glass of wine. And all of a sudden, Stephanie McMahon was like the attendant. She's like, here, Sable, here's your wine. She poured it on her head. And they had kind of a brutal cat fight up there, although I'm not looking forward to the match at all. I don't care what they do. But they were slamming each other around. They went through the food. They had like a food fight, and Stephanie was screaming and trying to look intense.
Oh, Stephanie screaming on Thursday night. Oh, that was... Oh.
It did certainly make me want to see the match, to be honest with you. And then they pulled Stephanie out of the room, and Josh Matthews went to get a word from Sable, and she slapped him, and that was the end of that segment. And then pretty much at this point, I think as the main event was it. This was a really good match, at least I thought live. It was Angle against Haas, Benjamin, and Big Show. Started out with basically a foot to the face to Angle, and then they pretty much took it outside from there. They brawled through the crowd. Angle was really over. A lot of USA chants, a lot of Angle chants. Angle got the ankle lock near a barricade out in the crowd that was broken up by Big Show because it was Falls Count Anywhere. They came around up the aisle, into the ring. Angle got a garbage can lid and just smacking the heck out of all three of them. At this point, the heels were taking over. Gowan came down the aisle, pulled off his leg. I don't see where he pulled it off, but he pulled off his leg, got in the ring, did the single leg drop kick to pretty much all three of the heels, and then he got walloped by Big Show, and he fell out of the ring. Angle came back, got the advantage. But then Big Show got him, caught him outside, so Gowan climbed up on the top rope and did pretty much a planche off of that onto Big Show. Big Show caught him and dumped him into the barricade. Angle took the steel stairs and slammed him into Big Show's head, and he was out of the match. Angle came back in the ring. Benjamin and Haas got the advantage. They were about to set up where their finisher, where they set up almost like the old heart attack clothesline, where Haas holds him and then Benjamin does the kick. But as Benjamin came in for the kick, Angle grabbed his leg, and the ending was pretty awesome. He grabbed his leg, turned him around, and Benjamin did like a spin kick into Haas's face. This is one of the hardest kicks I've ever seen. And then Benjamin came back to Angle to give him another kick. Angle caught the leg. He gave him the ankle lock, and he tapped. And then after the show, or I guess it'll be off the air, Charlie Haas's eye was really messed up. It was bleeding. It looked like he had a hole in it from where I was sitting. I was kind of close.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, but I guess he was fine. He got up and walked, but his eye looked really messed up. I mean, it was a really hard kick. But Angle, the crowd exploded when he won the match, and him and Gowan, he picked up Gowan, and they hugged, and they walked up the aisle, and that was the end of the show.
Mm-hmm. Well, thanks. Anything else?
Yeah, no problem. That's it. I look forward to getting my Observer tomorrow. I know that. And, Brian, you have a good week, and you too, Dave.
Thank you very much. We really appreciate it, Ryan.
Hey, no problem.
Okay, that was Ryan from Cleveland, but talking about the show in Columbus. We are going to go now to Randy in Cincinnati. Randy, what's going on?
Hi, I'll just add a couple notes since you already got the full report. The first Stark match, it wasn't John Heidenreich, it was John Hennigan.
Oh, okay.
And that match with Ray and Kidman with the two masked wrestlers, I don't think it was the Basham brothers, because one of them appeared to be Rob Conway. He had blonde hair sticking out the back of his...
I bet it's Dinsmore and Conway?
Yeah, it was probably Dinsmore and Conway, and I figured that they did this because I'm guessing they plan on debuting them soon. And
I'm guessing it was probably Dinsmore and Conway because they didn't want to screw with Cornette more than they needed to.
Yeah.
You know, because those guys they're feuding with each other on the other show.
Yeah, they already did that with the Basham brothers.
Yeah, well, he got away with that one with a storyline to get away with that one once, but it'd be pretty difficult to do that same storyline again.
Yeah. Zach, Vince, Stephanie, and Sable, they were all on the show a lot, but I don't think it was overkill like they've done in the past. Mm-hmm. Because this Sable and Stephanie stuff, it was just a couple backstage segments, nothing too big. Mm-hmm. And the main event, I thought that was really good also, like Ryan said. Mm-hmm. They laid it out really well, got the crowd popping for a lot of stuff.
Good.
Okay, I guess that's about it.
Okay, thank you very much, Randy. Okay, we're going to go ahead to a break right now. We're going to come back with more phone calls right after this. You're listening to the Wrestling Observer live on the Sports Byline Radio Network. Okay, welcome back to Wrestling Observer Live. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer newsletter with Brian Alvarez of Figure 4 Weekly. We just went through the Columbus, Ohio tapings, and this will be the show that we were talking about. Will air on SmackDown on Thursday night. They taped a couple days early because everyone is headed to Thailand. On the SmackDown crew, they're headed to Thailand and Japan for a couple of shows during midweek. And also, I want to remind everyone, if you're interested in the latest wrestling news, we've got updates every morning, or actually every afternoon, at www.wrestlingobserver.com. And there's also information on how to get both the Wrestling Observer newsletter that I do every week and Figure 4 Weekly that Brian does every week. And I didn't get Figure 4 yesterday, and It was a day I could have used it, but that's how it usually goes. But next week's Observer is going to be part 5 of the history of modern history of wrestling, and I'm looking forward to writing it. It'll cover the early '90s: Sting, Ultimate Warrior, Hulk Hogan, Ric Flair. I'm still writing about them today, but Sting and Ultimate Warrior, kind of not writing about them too much, thank God.
I was strangely relieved on Saturday to see that the Observer was only 12 pages.
Oh, I had to do 2 weeks of 12 pages just to recover.
2 weeks?
Yeah, this one coming up is going to be 12 pages, and the week after will be huge. I've already got all kinds of ideas for that issue. Give me a break.
No, I figured with the history thing, it would have to be longer.
Oh, no, the history's going to be in next week's, not the one I'm working on right now.
Okay.
The one I'm working on right now, I'll probably...
No, I was relieved for you after, the 24s and the 18s. It was like, wow.
Yeah. But anyway,
a 5.
Yeah. So anyway, for the Observer and Figure 4 with the latest news in pro wrestling, a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff that is not talked about on the Internet, and when it is talked about on the Internet, it's usually gotten wrong anyway, so... I don't know what else to say. Let's see. We should go to San Antonio and Ed. Ed, what's happening?
Hey, guys. What I want to get your reaction about is something that I read on the Internet that really, when I read this, I must have sat on my computer for like 5 minutes just really being pissed off about what I read. And that's, did you read the interview with the Invader talking about Bruiser Brody?
I know what he said in his television interview that was on about a week ago or 2 weeks ago. In what sense?
Well, it's just the fact that they had to go to bring up his opinion on somebody he murdered.
Yes, wasn't.
That's...
I think the feeling was, and this is not to defend anyone because he did murder the guy. IWA does a Bruiser Brody Memorial thing every Thanksgiving, and there was a lot of people in that dressing room that did not want Invader in. A lot. And it was a close call, and he got in. Basically for a retirement thing. He's only going to work a few more shows. And I guess the feeling was they wanted him to... you pretty much can't ignore it. You know what I mean? So they tried to address it, and they tried to address it in some way possible. But it's, that's one of the ugliest stories in wrestling is the whole Invader thing in that, he murdered a guy.
Yeah, that was lower than anything the WWF.
Oh, it's not even close. Wait a minute, he murdered a guy, and then he came back to wrestle as a babyface, and booked. He even booked, and even while he was gone, they turned him back babyface on television before his trial. It's really, I'll tell you, when you really look back at that whole Invader thing, it's a real. Really, I've learned over the years as far as wrestling goes that there really is no depth that it can go, and I think that the whole Invader situation, the fact that he's still, here it is 15 years later and he's still in wrestling, and really, that just tells you there's, you can do anything in wrestling, and the promoters won't care.
Yeah, well, I hope, like you say, it is his last run and he just goes away.
Yeah, well, this should be his last run. He's 57 years old. I don't know how much longer he can stick around.
Okay, and I also want to ask another question.
I shouldn't have said that, should I? Anyway, so go ahead, Ed.
And I just finally got to see the Randy Couture Chuck Liddell fight.
Yeah.
And I was wondering, what are you getting the feeling that Tito's not going to go through with this fight because he was just such afraid of Liddell?
Tito's going to go through with this fight. Tito thinks he can beat Randy Couture.
I don't understand why he was so afraid of Liddell because I haven't seen all of.
They trained together, and that
trained with both guys, right?
Yeah, Tito's trained with both guys, and Tito had the fear of God when he trained with Randy Couture. With Liddell, he did not have it when he trained with Couture. So he's not afraid of Randy Couture. He was, it'll be said in different ways, but he didn't want to fight Chuck Liddell. And just because one guy
beat... was best for his career at the time.
Yeah, because it's fighting is a lot about styles when you get to the level of fighters that these guys are. And just because Randy beat Chuck Liddell, and let's just say Tito can beat Randy, that doesn't mean Tito would have beaten Chuck Liddell by any means, or the other, So, and then also what happens in training doesn't always happen in a real fight because there's some guys who are, Ken Shamrock is an awesome fighter in training, awesome. But somehow in real fights, he's not as awesome. And Frank Shamrock was never an awesome fighter in training, but in real fights, he never lost or very rarely lost and beat guys that everyone thought he was going to lose to. So what you do in training, it's not a real fight, but it does get in. But what happens in training, if you train with a guy and he's just got your number and he's just whipping you, it gets into your head, you know. I mean, and evidently that's what happened with Tito and Chuck Liddell.
Okay. And if I could just ask one more question about Superstar Billy Graham.
Yes.
I had asked him back in the IATA show about when he had lied about Pat Patterson on the Phil Donahue show, and he said that he lied and that he apologized. And I was just wondering, do you know if Patterson ever accepted his apology? Do they get along, or is there still, like, heat between the two of them?
I will ask. I don't know that they've had any contact. I don't know that they haven't.
Okay.
So.
Okay, well, guys, thanks for...
But we will ask about that. Okay. Let's go to Jeff in New York. Jeff, what's going on?
Hey, what's going on? I first wanted to say something about the Taker versus Cena match at SmackDown. I was reading on the Observer the reports, and the fact that Taker no-selled Cena shows basically that WWF really, to me, doesn't really, is not really taking this push seriously for Cena, because why would I want to pay for a pay-per-view when I know that Taker just basically beat the hell out of Cena? Why would I think that Cena has a chance of beating him? So that
might also be that Cena's going to get a fluke win, and it was Undertaker's way of showing that, okay, I'll do the job for him, but I'm gonna. I don't know. We'll have to wait for
all those wacky things they've said in the past, like just being in the ring with this guy is an elevation.
Oh, I know it.
And all this other stupid stuff. Whereas no one was elevated in the '80s when they were squashed every week on.
None of these guys have gotten elevated by being squashed by the top guys now.
Yeah, I mean, even Angle, when he had at least a little bit of offense in his match with Undertaker, he was still buried.
Yeah. I tell you what, this is a big test for Undertaker. I mean, because Cena was so good on Thursday. I mean, I thought that opening segment of SmackDown was just tremendous. And I know Cena's not a great worker, but he's the best young talker in the business, and he's got charisma and everything, and he's got to be elevated in that match, whether that means going over or leaving him laying, but not losing and then leaving him laying. However it is, it's got to be done, and I don't think it'll be done, because it never is.
Okay. Another question I wanted is, what's your assessment, both you and Brian, on the article that Todd Martin wrote on the website, a very extensive article on
Shawn Michaels? You're going to say Shawn Michaels this week? Ah! Brian, why don't you go first?
I just think that everyone who's arguing about Shawn Michaels should just vote for him so we don't have to argue about it next year.
Or not vote for him if you don't believe he should be in.
No, I don't agree with that.
Okay, no, I mean, what can I say?
I think that, everybody knows that I think that he should be in, and I'm going to vote for him. And I don't know, it's just like I can only argue so much until I would start thinking that there's something wrong with me.
Yeah.
Does that make any sense?
Yeah. I mean, Todd Martin worked really, really hard on that article, and as did the people
refuting it.
As did the people refuting it. Too hard, because that's all I can say. Too hard, because I think I don't think it's that complicated. That's all I can say. I think that if you think that Shawn Michaels was an excellent worker, a Hall of Fame caliber worker, and that's enough to overcome some of his negatives, then he should be in. And I think it's that simple. And if you don't think that he was that excellent, then he shouldn't be in.
And my thing also about the Hall of Fame is this, and Dave runs the Hall of Fame, but I think that when it was started, in fact I know this, it was not supposed to be a chore. It was supposed to be something fun.
Yes, it was. It was supposed to be fun every year.
Now, and this is not just about Shawn Michaels. This is about a lot of arguments I've read about various people. It's to the point now where it's so not fun, and people are making it so impossible to really vote anybody in, that I almost see this getting worse and worse and worse as the years go by, and it's pretty bad now. I mean,
it is worse than I imagined. I will say that.
No one could ever get in ever again.
I know, because one of the things is no one's going to have. I don't want to say no one, but no one's going to have the career like Ric Flair and Hulk Hogan had.
It's impossible.
They're not going to have the longevity, and you only have two territories, even though Hogan and Flair were both national figures for years. But it's just people's. I just don't think you're going to be seeing guys like that, because if somebody was like The Rock, they're going to be gone. So the longevity thing isn't going to be there. I don't know.
And I think there's also too much comparison between guys that were inducted from different eras, trying to compare them to the guys from today. because everything about wrestling today is so different than it was even 5 years ago, not to mention 10 and 20 and 50 years ago, that trying to make a case for somebody today or make a case against somebody today, comparing them to somebody from the 70s or the 80s, is totally absurd. And I don't
although that is something that is done regularly in baseball.
This isn't baseball.
No. But baseball's changed a great deal too, and people still make those. I mean, that is the same arguments that I hear in baseball. But I don't know. I mean, I think that the guys who are slam dunks are going to get in, and we'll have to wait for some other guys. I don't know. I mean, there's some good candidates this year. I don't think that there's any. Put it this way, nobody is as good a candidate this year as Rock will be the year where Rock's eligible.
But I can see a million people arguing why Rock should not be in.
Oh, I do too, but you know what? I still think he'll get in.
Yeah.
But if he doesn't, then we can go in 2007 or whatever year it is and just go, this is really not fun anymore. Anything else, Jeff?
Yeah, one more question. What do you think about, or not what you think about, but Mick Foley and Ric Flair, what do you think their real opinions are of Triple H? Because I asked last week Mick Foley, what does he think of Triple H? And he gave me the political answer. With, I understand why, but
he has to.
I know.
Ric Flair likes Triple H. That's not a political answer. I mean, I know that. Okay,
I mean, his work rate, comparing him to Kurt Angle, and is he being like biased in a?
The guy. Ric Flair's career before he hooked up with Triple H was really in the toilet. And Triple H did save it, and Flair's got his 1,045th lease on life. But I mean, they like each other. And they did before then. I mean, Rick. I remember when Rick was training with Triple H before Triple H came back from the leg injury, and he really liked the guy. And why would Ric Flair not like Triple H? Okay, Triple H is one of the biggest stars in the game, and openly says that Ric Flair's his idol. He makes no bones about it. Rick's gonna like that at 54 years old. Someone going like, the top guy or one of the top. One of the top 4 guys in the business, just going like, hey, you're my idol. I want to be just like you. I want you in my corner just so I can learn from you, So he's going to like the guy. It's kind of, I don't know. But Mick Foley, I mean, you'd have to ask him when he's not working for WWE. I guess that's the answer. But
even then he's going to be political because he can always be brought back.
Yeah. But I mean, when he was on the show and we asked him about the Hall of Fame, he thought that the guy needed one more run to be in it, So, anyway, we're going to go ahead to a break right now. We'll be back with more right after this. You're listening to Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline Radio Network. Okay, welcome back to Wrestling Observer Live. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer Newsletter, with Brian Alvarez of Figure 4 Weekly. We're going to have Billy Graham in the second hour. We're going to go to Kyle in St. Paul. Kyle, what's going on?
Hey, guys, what's up?
Not too much.
Hey, Brian, I love you, man. I love the newsletter, but I got to say I would never vote for Shawn Michaels into the Hall of Fame. Sorry.
That's fine.
Usually we agree, unless you're picking MMA matches, too, but not on that one. All right, so I'm watching the June 1st Noah show today. I got a question here.
Do you mean June 6th or June 1st? Or do you mean March 1st?
No, June 1st, the one that aired on June 1st. I haven't had a chance to watch the...
Okay, so I don't know that one off the top of my head.
It was the 3 falls, 40-minute, 8-man tag match. It wasn't anything special.
Oh, the one with Captain's Fall rules?
Yep.
Yeah, I remember the match, okay.
Okay, so, but what I'm interested in is the guy in the opening match, the Momoto, whatever his name is?
Yes.
Why does he have a job?
Because he's Ricky Dozan's son and he's vice president of the company.
Oh, that would explain it, okay.
Okay.
He's awful.
Well, he's like 60 years old.
Well, I know, but I mean, I figured you expect better from Noah. Like you said this week, how would Hogan do there?
But like the thing with Noah, because he's got the All Japan
opener.
Yeah, it's an opener, but they have this. There's a certain mentality that Baba had, and even though it's not Baba's company, they all learn from Baba, and that is these guys like Haruka Egan and Mitsuo Momota and Rusher Kimura and these guys. They have jobs for life. That's one of the reasons these guys never, they're loyal, because they know that as long as there's a company, they will have a job, and they'll just be put in opening matches and their warm-up matches, and they don't do much, and they just do comedy, and that's just the deal.
Was Rusher Kimura not on this show?
Rusher Kimura is sick.
Oh, he is?
Yeah, so that's the deal with him, yeah.
What's wrong with him?
I don't know, but,
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Oh, I know. For him not being there, that's something, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right, so what's with the spray can they spray on their neck? What's the deal with that?
That's like a freezing thing.
Yeah, I mean, is it just supposed to minimize the damage, or?
It's.
I think it's to make it look more sports-like.
No. It's. Sometimes they do it for comedy, but it's also for like it freezes your thing, so it's supposed to like kind of like it's like putting ice on your wound but immediately.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Well, I want to talk UFC sometime. I hear you're gumming up to the hour though, so I'll talk.
Well, why don't you just hold on and we'll talk UFC when we come back on, okay?
All right, sounds good.
Okay, we'll be back with more right after this. You're listening to Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline Radio Network.
Welcome back to Hour 2 of the Wrestling Observer with Dave Meltzer and Brian Alvarez.
Are you ready? Are you ready?
Let's get it on!
Okay, welcome back to Wrestling Observer Live. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer newsletter, with Brian Alvarez of Figure 4 Weekly here for the second hour. We're going to have Billy Graham up in about 5 minutes, but we're going to go back to Kyle in St. Paul. Kyle, what's going on?
Hey, well, Dave, I was calling in while you guys were talking about Tito and Randy and Chuck, and I want to just get your thoughts on that quickly. What do you think Tito's chances are with Randy?
Pretty decent.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's, my head still tells me Tito's going to win.
Really? Because
I don't know. I think that he's faster and younger.
Yeah.
Even though if the fight is a tough fight, I'll favor Randy because I think Randy's got the more guts.
Definitely.
And it may be a tough fight. I have a really hard time with that one because I could certainly see. I don't see that one very clear. Put it that way. But I'm kind of favoring Tito. I think he's quicker.
Yeah, I mean, Tito's definitely faster, but I think having 10 months off is going to seriously hurt him.
Well, I'll tell you, what is going to hurt him, and in a sense, it almost makes me think I'd probably pick the other way, and I'll probably go back and forth on this one between now and September anyway.
Yeah, as soon as I heard it, I mean, and after that fight, I thought for sure that I have never doubted Randy's going to win that. I mean, I could end up being wrong, but...
when the fight was over with Chuck, I thought the same thing.
Yeah.
Okay, the one thing is Tito just got off doing a movie.
Right.
Okay? And that's a good recipe to lose.
Yep.
I mean, because look at like Lennox Lewis, remember?
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing. It's like, you live that good life. Boy, living that good life is not good for a fighter. I mean, and it hits everyone. Plus, every fighter, and we just saw it with Chuck Liddell on the last one, every fighter goes through this period where they think that they're it. And that's the fight. And they always lose the next fight, or usually lose, or they get stunned or something. Mm-hmm. And this may be Tito's fight for that. And certainly he's against a guy who, if he's not 100%, that guy's going to beat him.
And I think this is definitely the toughest guy that Tito's fought since he matched up with Silva. I mean, he's faced.
I think he's tough. I think for Tito, he's tougher than Silva. Because
I think he is for sure.
Because he's a better wrestler. Because Tito beat Silva only through his wrestling,
right.
And he's not going to have as easy a time with the wrestling as Randy. I mean, Randy, when they lock up. When they do the lockup, that's the part that Randy's going to own,
right?
Because of the Greco.
It's still been a couple years since Tito's had a tough fight like that. Is my point. I mean,
that's right. And Randy can go in a tough fight. We saw it with Hizzo and with other people.
Yep. So I think that's going to fighting guys like Elvis Sinisek is going to come and haunt him in the end.
Yeah. Well, Tito's never fought anyone in UFC that can match him in wrestling, and this may be the guy.
Yep. I can't wait to see it. It's going to be a great show.
Okay, thanks a bunch, Kyle. We'll be back with more right after this. We'll have Billy Graham up in just a couple minutes. You're listening to Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline Radio Network. Okay, welcome back to Wrestling Observer Live. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer newsletter with Brian Alvarez of Figure 4 Weekly, and our guest, who is up right now, is Billy Superstar Graham. How you doing, Billy?
Hey, how's it going, Dave? I'm doing great. I'm actually doing fantastic, man.
We have not had you on this show, except for when you called in with when Don Frye was on not all that long ago. But we haven't had a chance to talk to you on your own in a long, long time. And your life is absolutely, totally different from the last time we talked to you on the air. You had a liver transplant several months back and saved your life. And, you stared it right in the face again, and that wasn't the first time. And I don't know, you probably feel, from what we talked about, you feel better than you probably have in 25 years.
Oh, yeah, it's an absolute miracle. I tell you, when your liver goes on you, your whole body goes. I mean, your health is in the gutter. And it's an absolute miracle, the turnaround. I just an hour ago, I got back from the gym and had a fantastic workout. I've been training 7 days a week, really, here in Phoenix, and and my strength is coming back is actually a miracle. The turnaround in my health is really phenomenal, Dave, and I'm so thankful for it. Hey, you know what I'd like to do? Before we get a little bit further in, I would like to make a comment, if I could, on your readers' pages. I really enjoy that segment of the Observer, and I just want to say one thing about make a comment about a reader who wrote a paragraph concerning about 2 weeks ago concerning the Road Warriors and their maybe lack of faith in God because they were wanting to work for Vince. And the writer of this paragraph mentioned, well, first of all, he withheld his name. I don't know. Well, he or her withheld their name, and mentioned that he himself, the writer, mentioned that he had been to Sunday school himself enough to know that if you're trying to be a devout Christian and a man offers you a job, you'll run the other way. And I just, that's a very interesting topic as of late because of the guys trying to, be Christians. And I would just like to comment that, 3 weeks ago today we had a Christian athletes conference that just ended 3 weeks ago today on the 23rd of June. And Shawn Michaels was here, Sting was here, the Road Warriors, the Tonga Kid was here, Hector and Chavo Guerrero, and just a lot of the guys. And the reader, I don't know why the reader who wrote this statement about the Road Warriors may have something against them, because he didn't mention the fact that Sting is a Christian and was trying to get a job with Vince. If he reads the Observer regularly, he would know that. And also that Shawn Michaels is making a Christian stand, obvious by the cross he wears on his shirt. And
Shawn Michaels again.
They're still.
I'm sorry.
These folks are still wrestling, and Shawn Michaels right in the thick of it and trying to serve God. So you can't do it. And I think the thing that the guy was writing was maybe because of the adult content in the shows. But that's something you have to live with. And the bottom line is, I just talked to Hawk yesterday, 30 minutes after he walked in the door from Japan. And by the way, Vader broke his nose over there, and it's all over his face, and his eyes are black and they're swollen shut. But he's happy to be back, and
I bet.
Oh yeah, real happy to be back. And he said that Animal really got his neck hurt by the guys. Not the Japanese guys, but the green.
The Shane twins?
Green, huh?
The Shane twins?
I guess so.
The two big, like 290-pound guys that they wrestle a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. And Hawk said he had to tell them that if they kept hurting him, they were going to have to hurt them. It was a funny deal, but Hawk, I just like to, for the record, Hawk and Animal, and I know Sting's convictions, and Shawn Michaels, and even a lesser-known name, the road agent, one of the road agents, Terry Taylor, a close friend of mine, really trying to serve God and work for Vince at the same time. And so it can't be done. And the bottom line is these guys need a job. Yeah, that is. There's nobody else to work for, you know?
It's weird about, there's morality, and then you got to live. And you got to work.
Oh, yeah.
You got to work, and if you're a wrestler, you don't got a lot of choices these days.
No, you don't. You don't have any choices, really. I mean, Japan, of course, you can make a decent living, but over here...
There are only a few guys who can really make it in Japan, and those are the guys who are already... Either if you're really, really good, or you have a name from the past like the Road Warriors, you can make it. But if you're most guys, and you really want to go somewhere in wrestling, I mean, you gotta get there, and you gotta stay there when you're there.
Oh yeah. And today, as all the fans know, and everybody, that man, there's if you don't work for Vince, you don't have a good paying job in this country in wrestling. So it's like and I've received emails from fans that have since my book signing contract with Vince has been publicized, telling me that I basically have made a deal with the devil. And it's
it's funny about that, because realistically, it's that or there's no book, right?
Oh, yes.
I mean, you could have self-published it. There is a chance, but as far as a book that is going to get noticed or anything like that, again, I mean.
Well, yeah, the bottom line is Vince McMahon owns the biggest book publishing company on the face of the planet.
Or he's tied to it. But yeah, he's with them.
Well, he's tied, yeah. So and so it's like, man, I was going to originally self-publish and sell my book on the internet because I wasn't fortunate enough to get a publisher. And so Vince is going to publish my book, his company, Simon & Schuster, and it's a tremendous opportunity for me. And it's not going to affect my particular morality or my beliefs in God. I'm as convicted as Shawn Michaels or Sting or the Road Warriors or anybody when it comes to that. But I see an opportunity, an economic opportunity that I would be a fool to turn it down.
Yeah. Now you were going. I guess it's kind of out, and we've talked about it. You're going to SummerSlam.
Yes.
And you're going to be on WWE television, probably on Confidential within a couple of weeks of that. They're going to be filming you there.
Yeah.
And as far as a mega event for WWE, it's probably been 15 years since you've been to one, right?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. As a matter of fact, while waiting for you to call for the show, I was just reading through your latest newsletter and reading about some stuff coming up in Phoenix and everything, and I was just thinking that, this time, 6 weeks from today, we'll all be at the American West Arena and seeing Vince for the first time since you and I were together with him on the Phil Donahue show, which may go back to like about 92.
Early 92. What an interesting turn of events that is, isn't it?
Oh, it's incredible.
It's like there are things, and that's one of them. I mean, there are things in wrestling where, you never say that you can predict the future and that something will never happen because you never know. You never know what's going to happen.
No, especially with wrestling.
Yeah.
You never say never.
Especially with, but for Vince McMahon, and I have to say this for Vince in behalf of you, it would be very easy for Vince McMahon to be vindictive towards you. There's no question. And, however you guys got together, and I think I pretty much know the story, because we talked about it, but, which is largely your wife, you have to, in your case, you have to give him credit because he stepped up to the plate. He did more for you than I would say would have been expected, or far more than would have been expected under the circumstances.
Oh, well, of course, absolutely. And I'm telling you, this insight to the real Vince McMahon is astounding because I'm telling you, as you know, you chronicled the whole steroid issue and the whole bashing of Hulk and Vince, the whole steroid mess. You chronicled week by week by week, and man, it was. I may have cost that company and Vince some money at that time. I might have been involved in one of the people that was raising so much stink about the steroids deal that could have cost his company money. So for the man has actually forgiven me. See, I asked Vince to forgive me of more or less my transgressions about the way I treated him and the World Wrestling Federation at that time. And he did. He did with no whole bar to speak. He had with no qualms. Just because I know the man has the good side of his heart is there.
Oh, he's got everything.
We know the guys are ruthless.
No, he's got his good and he's got his bad and he's got his in between and he's a fascinating character. There's no doubt.
The best book of all will be about Vince McMahon.
As long as he doesn't write it.
But
the best book coming.
You know who wants to write? You know who wants to write that book is Mick Foley.
You're kidding.
No, Mick Foley. I think that if he was going to do another wrestling book, I don't think he would love to do the book on Vince McMahon because there is so much. And Mick has seen Vince's good side and Mick has seen Vince's bad side, and we all have. It's like I hate when people say Vince is the most horrible person on earth, and I hate when they say he's the greatest person on earth.
Right.
And he's just a human being, and he's he's definitely got his good and his bad, and in your case, it's quite the story though.
It is quite the story. It's an absolute, I mean, Vince, my birthday was June 7th. Well, as I told you, Valerie, my wife, called Beth Sadler, his secretary, about 3 or 4 days before my birthday, and said, could you please give Superstar a call on his birthday, because I turned 60 on June 7th. And then Vince called me.
Yeah.
In the afternoon, he gave me a call to wish me a happy birthday, and he was sincere.
Oh, yeah.
It's incredible. I mean, the man, on paper, at one time was a billionaire on paper.
Yeah.
This guy doesn't have to make amends to anyone. And he doesn't have to give Superstar Billy Graham a book deal, with offices in New York, Toronto, London, Tokyo, Sydney, Singapore. I mean, that's an incredible deal. See?
Yeah, we got to head to a break. We're going to be back with more Billy Graham right after this. You can also call us at 1-800-878-PLAY. You'll listen to the Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline Radio Network. Okay, welcome back to Wrestling Observer Live. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer Newsletter, with Brian Alvarez of Figure 4 Weekly. Our guest this week, Superstar Billy Graham, who one of the biggest stars in wrestling in the 70s, and in fact headlined 20 shows in Madison Square Garden, 19 of which were sellouts, and there is no one in professional wrestling history who ever did anything remotely close to that. There were people who sold it out more, but they headlined it a lot more, and there were only probably a handful of those. And it's an amazing track record looking back on it, because you and I talked about, there was a time where we thought, Rock was going to break that record, and it ain't happening.
Yeah, it's an amazing thing. But I tell you, I was talking to Dusty Rhodes the other day for the first time in maybe 15 years. Dusty and I had some problems, and we kind of had a falling out and stuff, but we mended our ways, and we were talking about that very era of the 70s at the Garden. Everybody selling that thing out. It was like a special era.
Yeah, a lot of people who grew up. I'll tell you what, the issue that I did in April, which we talked about before.
Yeah,
that issue was the one of the most requested issues that I've ever done, and one of the most talked about. People of all the history ones, and that's the one that everyone really talks about, was that second issue, which was talking about your title reign, Bruno's second title reign, and that era. And one of the things, I think there's a certain fascination of, WWF always had the babyface champion forever and ever, and the heel champion was just a guy to hold it for a couple of weeks, and there's just transition guys, and to an extent you were, because the day before you got 6 months before you got the title, whatever it was, when Vince told you were going to get it, he told you when you were going to get it, he told you when you were going to win it, when you were going to lose it. I mean, he had the whole thing. I think it's amazing because as we all know, today's wrestling is so much planned week to week, and I mean, Vince Sr. planned this thing out so far in advance, and it's still a totally different business. One of the things that I want to talk to you about was that last weekend as champion. We've talked about that a lot. That last weekend as champion, you wrestled Bruno in Philadelphia. It was actually probably the hottest ticket in this year wrestling in Philadelphia. And there you are, you and Bruno, and it's like this is the just about the peak of your reign, the peak of your heat. And 2 days later, it's gone. It was going to be on. It was going to be gone, and then.
But the Friday before, that was on a Saturday night at the Spectrum, and the previous night, Friday in Pittsburgh, was an absolute sellout, turned folks away with a cage match with me and Pusky. So it was it was coming off 2 cage matches back to back, total sellouts and turning folks away. It was astounding, and as you and I have talked before, Bruno was shocked when I told him that I was going to drop the belt Monday coming up to Backley. He didn't even know about it. He knew it was going to happen eventually, but it was just astounding coming off of that hot of a business run, and to go ahead and turn it over.
Yeah, and you want to tell everyone the story about what happened in Philadelphia?
Oh, with Bruno.
Yeah.
Yeah, very interesting. Yeah, a very, very funny story. During our Bruno and I talking over a match before we went out. By the way, I was in Philadelphia at a hotel watching the news prior to going over to the Spectrum, and they had announced on the news they had already turned away about 5,000 people, and they probably estimated maybe 8,000 people turned away from the Spectrum, and at that time it was the biggest crowd attendance-wise for any event ever in the Spectrum. So
I think that was the biggest gate for a non-Garden show, at least indoor show, in maybe in history of wrestling by that point. Because
right. I think it was.
I think it was. It may not have been, but it was. And if it wasn't, it was pretty darn close.
Yeah. And so the interesting thing was when I was talking with Bruno when we were going over our match. And I told him that I'm gonna go ahead and drop this thing back on Monday, and well, he was shocked, and he knew it was eventually going to happen. But he said, "How can I do that coming out of this kind of business this soon?" And so Bruno said, you need to protect yourself in the match with Backlund when you drop the title. And I said, well, exactly what are you talking about? And he said, the best thing to do is let's go ahead and work an injury during our match, the cage match in Philadelphia, and keep it, and actually work the boys too, and work the referee, and work everyone to make this injury look so legit, and then go into the garden match with your injury, and sell it on the way in and during the match, so it looked like you had a real handicap. And Bruno, we came up with a deal, a spot where I was going after Bruno, and he was up against the cage. I was going to give him a big knee to the chest, a big leap. He ducked it, and I took the bump with my knee into the cage and fell back and started selling the bump like it was a real injury, and Bruno came over to work on the knee like you normally would following a missed bump. And so I, as we had already talked to Lower, I told Bruno, no, my knees legit hurt. I pulled the referee down and said, man, my knees really hurt, And so Bruno went to work on taking my head or something, a shoulder or something. So all the boys knew that I was hurt because you're going to stay with the injured knee, in the business. And so we sold it. We sold it that we kayfabed even the boys. And I did go in to the Garden. And, the next following Monday, and limping badly, selling the left knee, and Gorilla Monsoon, Vince Sr. told Gorilla to wrap that knee as tight as he could, and then he went over and told Backlund to immediately attack the knee as soon as the bell rings. So that's what happened. Monsoon taped my knee so tight I could barely even step up into the ring. And I tried to limp, but Backlund came over and immediately attacked the knee. So it was all in vain, really. But that was the scoop on that.
Yeah. Now, when's your book coming out?
The book, we're scheduled. We're not actually scheduled yet, but talking with Margaret Clark, we're looking at about a August, September, or October release.
Mm-hmm. Next year.
Yeah, next year. Yeah.
Wait, got any thoughts as far as going back, okay, going back on your career, well, I know that you probably have, you accomplished a lot, but at other times, do you have any regrets about what you could have done, what you should have done, things you would have done differently?
Oh yeah. Huge regret about not being turned babyface instead of, and that's not really a regret. That
was their decision, not yours, because you wanted to.
That decision wasn't mine. Yeah. That I should have been turned a babyface because I already had tons of folks turning to the Superstar Billy Graham T-shirts and posters, which were unheard of at that time, and stuff like that. So that really wasn't my regret, but it was really the most unfortunate thing or event that really has happened to me in the business that I actually regret that did not happen.
Mm.
Making that babyface change, which I knew I would have been a monster babyface. Making the switch.
Yeah.
The people were just ready for it. They basically love my gimmick, the tie dye, the big arms, and the rap, and the whole deal, the whole package. They actually liked it because it was very entertaining. That's why. So that's a major regret of something that didn't happen.
Would you? As far as influence, are you close friends, or do you talk much with Scott Steiner, who obviously was greatly influenced by you?
Oh, is this a caller?
No, it's Brian.
Okay, Brian. Hi. How you doing, Brian?
How you doing?
Well, first of all, Dave, thanks a lot for having me on the show. I really appreciate it. And so Brian, you were talking about.
We really need to head to a break right now. We'll talk about Scott Steiner, and I think we should talk about Scott Steiner and Jesse Ventura and start getting the phone calls right after this. You'll listen to Wrestling Observer live on the Sports Byline Radio Network. Okay, welcome back to Wrestling Observer Live. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer Newsletter, with Brian Alvarez of Figure 4 Weekly. If you're looking for info on how to subscribe to either of those publications, go to www.wrestlingobserver.com. We got a bunch of big issues coming up of Wrestling Observer. We're going to have another history issue coming out in a week, and the Hall of Fame issue, which is actually the most controversial issue of the year, will be coming out in August, so you can check out that. And, every issue's got all the news of the week, and Figure 4 is the most entertaining read that you will have on pro wrestling anywhere. I totally urge you to get a subscription if you don't have one already. We're going to go to Tom. We're going to talk about some other stuff, but I'm going to go to Tom in Atlanta really quick. Tom, what's going on?
Hi, Billy?
Yeah, how you doing, Tom?
Very good.
Good.
I was wondering, when you came in that night into, I guess it was Madison Square Garden with the, and like working the boys with that knee, when you told Vince Sr., did he know you were trying to try to work him, and he just he just didn't care?
Oh, that's a good question. As I recall, Vince's countenance when I told him that I blew my knee out in the cage match with Bruno the previous 2 nights ago, the following Saturday night earlier, he kind of got a pale look, and I was limping and holding. I was selling the knee, and so I don't think he was. As smart as he was, he may have. He may have spelled.
Well, it was the night you're supposed to lose the title.
Yeah, right.
And just there have been historically in wrestling, if you look at the 50s, 60s, and 70s, whether it would be Buddy Rogers or Dory Funk Jr. and other people. I mean, whether the injuries were legit or not, and in some cases they probably were, there have been an incredible number of injuries to people just as they were about to drop the title. And again, whether true or not, there's always someone's going to have that guard up, if you know what I mean.
Oh, very questionable.
Yeah.
One other question. They recently had a anniversary showing of Pumping Iron. And it seemed back in the day there was a real sense of community amongst...
Billy knew all those guys.
Yeah. Did you do... I mean, was there a sense of community in terms of just partying after, you guys worked out? Or were you were you so into the competition aspect and attaining your goals of winning titles?
I see what you're saying. Really, there wasn't. I was training with Arnold and all those folks about that time, and I had gone to a few other contests with Arnold, and before Pumping Iron, and there really wasn't that big of a camaraderie or that big of a cult guys who just hung out. There's really only a handful of guys anyway, But as far as Arnold was concerned, and I think also Ed Corney is a friend of Dave Dave's, could be considered in that group also. I don't think it was that big of a deal,
So you never saw these guys after you guys worked out. You just.
Oh no, I did with Arnold though. I socialized with Arnold. Arnold took my daughter home from the hospital because the night before my daughter was born in Santa Monica, the fans in Long Beach destroyed my car. I didn't have a car to take my daughter home from the hospital when she was born in Santa Monica. So Arnold drove me down and took my daughter home. And so, no, Arnold and I were very close friends and still are.
Yeah.
So you'd vote for him then, right?
I'll vote for him, but he's not going to run. The guy's not going to give $25 million a movie to live in Sacramento.
Right. All right. Have a good night. Also, Billy, consider doing a audio version of your book too. That'd be great.
Yeah,
that would actually be a really good idea.
Sure.
Take care.
Okay, thanks very much. Okay, Billy, right before we went to the break, we of course talked to Brian, and he was asking about if you knew Scott Steiner, and also as far as Scott Steiner, Jesse Ventura, Steve Strong. I mean, there's a lot of guys, Hulk Hogan, obviously, that emulated you, that went on to different degrees of success in wrestling and out of wrestling. And have you ever spoken to Scott Steiner?
No, as a matter of fact, I'm hoping the guy is at SummerSlam.
Well, he will be. He will be at SummerSlam.
Huh?
He will be at SummerSlam.
Okay, well, he will be then. I mean, barring an injury or
Right? Yeah, barring an injury, sure.
Because I want to meet the guy. I'm a huge fan of his physique. Obviously,
yeah.
The guy is incredible, and I can't wait to meet the guy. Well, I can't wait to meet Triple H and the whole crew. I've met none of these people.
Just Ric Flair.
And Rick, I haven't seen Rick for years.
Yeah.
Since the early 90s.
Yeah.
So, yeah, of course. So, no, Scott Steiner, the guy's bodybuilder. I mean, I'm a,
Yeah.
And and I guarantee you people say, oh, you influenced Scott Steiner. Well, I didn't influence Scott Steiner. He's a bodybuilder.
Yeah.
I never looked like that.
I don't think you could look like that in your day. I don't think it was possible.
Yeah, I mean,
he could
be ready for Mr. Olympia in a couple months.
Yeah, I mean, like like wrestling obviously has changed greatly. Like in leaps and bounds since your day, in different ways. Some ways, maybe not for the better. I think that the interviews maybe. I think the guys, just because they had more practice, I think the guys probably were better interviews in your day. But in other aspects, it's changed. Bodybuilding is a different world.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how close, if you've seen any contests lately or pictures in magazines, if you ever glanced at them. But
oh yeah.
I mean, it's amazing and scary.
It is very scary. These guys look like they've been put together by a factory. I mean, it's incredible, and way out there, and it is scary. I mean, I don't know what's going on, but I have a good idea. But nevertheless, just like Scott Steiner, people, knock Scott Steiner. I've heard fans say, well, because he's doing such and such to enhance his physique. Well, I don't know exactly what he's doing to enhance his physique, but the guy is spending the time in the gym.
Yeah.
I mean, you know that, Dave. You got to spend. You've been in the gym. You're a bodybuilder. You know what it takes.
I was a bodybuilder.
Yeah, you were. Come on, make a comeback, Dave. Make a comeback.
Brian is a bodybuilder. Oh, Brian's a training wrestler.
Yeah.
But but all of those guys, they obviously spend their time in the gym, and but it's scary. We got a special guest on line one, Don.
Hey, how you doing?
Oh, I knew it. I knew Dave Meltzer was going to do this. I was hoping you would anyway.
How you doing, sir?
Oh, wonderful, Don. How are you, my friend?
Been better and been worse. So
yeah. Well, I know you're a little disappointed from Japan, but man, golly, man, I just
I owe you $40.
That pay from you. Yeah, it's so good to hear your voice because I was telling Valerie, my wife, just yesterday, I said, man, if Don Frye doesn't call me back, if he doesn't call me back, I'm going to call him, and I'm going to come down and knock on his door, and my wife Valerie said, yeah, if you do that, you're going to have to tap out. True, I will tap out, But yeah, I just, really, really great to hear from you, man.
I got to send you a check or cash or however you want it. Take you out
I'm
to
just
dinner.
a big fan. I'm a big mark for you now. My wife says, my gosh, she says, you talk like a mark when you talk about Don Frye. I said, well, shouldn't I? So it's great. It's great to hear you, man.
Well, I wanted to call you back, but the thing is, I've been nervous, because you're one of my heroes. And when I get nervous and excited, I get like temporary Tourette's syndrome. I start cussing uncontrollably. I didn't want to call you up and start cussing and have you come down and knock my head off.
No. I tell you what, man. It's so great that we're neighbors. We're only 90 miles apart.
Oh, I know. I'm going to come up there too.
Oh man, if you don't come up here, I'm going down to Tucson.
All right.
I gotta take you out to lunch. I just have to. It's gonna be the thrill of my life, man.
Oh, your life, it'd be the thrill of my life. I'm going to buy.
Yeah, that's good. That's real good.
Don, how are you doing overall coming off of the fight?
Bad news. I got my neck surgery 3 years ago. I had 5, 6, and 7 fused. And about a year ago, preparing for the Shamrock fight, I re-injured my neck. And a couple days ago, the doctors, they took the x-rays, MRI, and the right side of my spine, the 2, 3, and 4, the right side is collapsing and pinching off the nerves on that side.
Oh, my God.
So, probably going to have to get another operation. So that might have been my last fight.
Wow. Are you going to are you going to go to Japan and wrestle right now, or is that off?
Yeah. Well, I'm supposed to wrestle Vader in a week, so I'm going to try and sneak one more out of it, Tease the devil one more time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, I have a collapsing spine. That's been diagnosed by the best orthopedic surgeons in this country that I've seen, spine specialists. And it's from all the, of course, the bumps that I took in the business, compound fractures of the vertebrae.
Right.
So, and I've probably lost at least 3 inches in height because of the compression of the vertebrae in the disc. So, I hope that doesn't happen to you, because
I'll be as small as Dave if I lose in one eye.
Oh, God.
So, I hope it doesn't. I really hope. Are they talking about fusing it?
Yes, sir. Yeah, they fused 5, 6, and 7. I got a steel plate in there, and so they'll probably end up doing the same thing on the 2, 3, 4.
Yeah. Now, that shouldn't. That was maybe your last fight. Well, then, are you going to be like turning pro into the business, into wrestling?
I don't know. I have no idea. Whatever it's going to depend on the outcome of the fight.
Yeah.
I mean the fight of the operation.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be a fight, all right.
Yeah.
It'll be a fight, all right.
But I have one more fight left on my contract, so if they force me to keep my word, then I'm obviously going to keep my word and try and teach the devil one more time on that too.
Yeah.
Do you want to fight Yoshida, or is there anyone in particular you want to fight?
Somebody easy.
Good answer.
Yeah. Somebody who can't reach my neck.
Bringing Tank Abbott back. He's due for a good whip.
Yeah. I think everybody's whooped him already.
Yeah. How are your shoulders, Don, after your shoulder operations?
They come out pretty good, I guess. But they took a bunch of scar tissue out and some bone spurs and a couple bone chips, and that come out real well. But I guess the recurring injury on the neck is what the problem is now.
Don, is that injury from amateur wrestling, pro wrestling, fighting, or was it just wear and tear from everything?
Probably a combination of everything, that and having the weight of the world on my shoulders,
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I tell you what, Don, I've got a neck injury, and it's pinched a nerve going down my left side, and to my deltoid and my left tricep and my left pec. And when I first pinched that thing 25 years ago, my tricep dropped, my pec dropped, and it was a nerve. It has never been the same since.
Wow.
Yeah,
but you're still the man.
That was I guess the man I had because
you're still the man.
Because that was.
I don't know about that, but I tell you what, I'm gonna meet a lot of men. Hey, you know what we ought to do? You ought to come up here during Survivor Series. I mean, the SummerSlam, the 24th of next month, and go to the arena with me and my wife Valerie.
Alrighty.
Just get up here and let's get together, and you and I will walk in that building together.
I don't know if I'm a really welcome person in WWE territory.
That's right. Hey, Vince has got a forgiving heart, man.
Especially when you're with his favorite wrestler from his childhood.
I'm with Billy Graham,
Okay, we got to head to a break right now. We're going to come back with a little bit more with Don Frye and Billy Graham right after this. You're listening to the Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline Radio Network. Okay, welcome back to Wrestling Observer Live. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer newsletter with Brian Alvarez of Figure 4 Weekly, and we've got both Billy Graham and Don Frye here. Billy, before we get back to Don, I just wanted to ask you this. Is someone asked me this in the first hour to ask you about this. Have you spoken to Pat Patterson in the last 10 years?
Man, no.
Okay.
I wrote Pat Patterson a letter, and a matter of fact, a fan from the Bay Area sent me a ton of photographs of Pat Patterson and I together, and I copied them. And with Rocky Johnson and the studio matches that you remember seeing. Sure. And I wrote Pat and sent him the photos, but no, I have not heard back from Pat. Okay. I'm hoping through Vince that I'll be able to see Pat again and talk.
Yeah. Don.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Do you have a surgery date, or is that kind of up in the air right now?
We haven't got the surgery date yet. No, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, that was my question. I was wondering if Don, you have one match left on your contract, even though your back is bad and everything. I mean, do you still have to fulfill the contract obligation?
Are they what, sir?
Do you still have to fulfill this last match obligation under your contract, even though you're getting ready for a back surgery?
Yeah, you know, superstar. If I'm a man of my word, I'm a man of my word.
Yeah. Oh, no, I understand that. You know, you're a man of character. You know,
yeah,
gee whiz, it seems like you know, facing a definite back surgery that you know you're going to have the fusure.
Right.
It seems like you'd almost take a buy on it.
Well, you know, I've got 10 more months to fulfill that contract.
Oh, I see.
So I can, you know, I get the next surgery here in the next couple weeks, and then.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Be back within 3-4 months.
Right. Okay. And let me tell you one more thing. When I called and left that message,
yes, sir.
You know, I was really nervous. You know, and Sally said, "Why are you so nervous?" You know, I said, "Well, man, this guy's a legend. This guy's a legit legend. I'm a working legend. This guy's a real." And then when I left the deal, I said, "I don't want to call him too soon." After he comes home from Japan, you know. And I was talking to Dave, the host of this show, and he told me that you were going to probably spend a week in Hawaii, you know, and everything. And then I was counting the days, and I said, "My God, man, what am I going to do?" I was getting antsy. I want to talk to you, but I didn't want to call you too soon, you know. And so I left a message, and I was talking to the host of the show a couple of days ago, and I said, I left the message with Don, you know, but maybe he's out of town, you know. It's like, I'm not going to call back. I'm not going to bug him, you know. So, no, I knew Dave was going to do this. I knew he was going to do this.
I didn't even know I was going to do it till this afternoon. I knew it at 3:30, right when I was leaving the house. I called up Don, and he wasn't home, so I just figured that's not going to happen.
Oh, that's good. I'm so glad, Dave. I hear a little baby in the background. Donna, you have a little girl?
Yes, sir. 2 little girls, Kathy and Katie.
We unfortunately we got 10 seconds left. I just want to thank you, Don, and of course Billy. Thanks. We got to do this again. Brian, thank you very much. We're going to see everybody next Sunday night for 2 hours. You're listening to Wrestling Observer Live. See you in a week.